Welcome to Innovation Alchemy. My name is Adam Castle. I am your host, and this is the podcast that explores the magic, the mess, and the mastery of innovation and those who are bold enough and brave enough to build it. Now, before we get started today, I want to give a shout out to our amazing producer, John, and the team at Clear Rock. If you've been following along with the podcast these last few years, Clear Rock Studios in Windsor has been making us sound good and maybe look good for over the last couple of years, and we are so grateful to have them on their team. Now, this series of podcasts and this episode that you're about to watch today is part of a series that focuses in on our annual ScaleUP Accelerator. The ScaleUP Accelerator brought to you by the Government of Ontario and Libro Credit Union, as well as FedDev Ontario. Now, ScaleUP is a 6-month accelerator program that focuses on companies that are in that sweet spot going from 0 to 1. And so a lot of the questions today are going to be around that 0 to 1 phase. And you might be asking, what in the heck is 0 to 1? And I'm very glad you asked, because 0 to 1 is that point where a business goes from idea to impact. It starts to have real things like real customers, real challenges, and real constraints. And so when we're talking to these startups, they're at that point where real is becoming really tough. And so we're really excited to have these conversations today to dive into that very specific stage in a startup life cycle and have you learn along with us. So thank you so much and enjoy. For this episode, I'm joined by Colby Wu from Stratus Plastics and ThermaRoot. Colby, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
So let's kick us off. You did not start in agriculture. However, you are solving a real problem there. So this is really where innovation starts, that sideways type of move when you move into a new space and you find something really interesting to tackle. So tell the audience right now, what is ThermaRoot? What are you tackling? And why is it so important right now for that industry?
Yeah, so I'm actually a plastic injection molder. So I primarily produce auto parts. And we saw an opportunity to support the greenhouse sector because we're about 30 minutes away from Leamington. The greenhouse sector is a very challenging space. You know, these are big, massive billion-dollar operations, and they're constantly growing. And they're the cornerstone of Canada. They are literally the building blocks that are needed to support our economy, to feed our people, and they're vital to the world, essentially. They export more than they import. Yeah. So they are a big exporter of all the fruits and vegetables in the world. So we saw an opportunity where we went in and we saw that they're wasting a lot of heat and they're not utilizing their heat very well. And we found a solution where we took a product called ThermaRoot. We made it, we patented it. It is a system that goes right underneath of the root zone. And what it does is it heats and cools the root zone. So there is no other product on the market today that has this. And what we're trying to do is think about in-floor heating.
Okay.
We are essentially bringing in-floor heating right to the root zone. So instead of trying to heat the whole greenhouse and heat the whole ambient temperature, we're really concentrating the heat right to the root zone. Same thing for cooling. So there is no cooling method today that they use to cool down the root zone. The only strategy that they have today in Leamington is they will keep opening up vents, keep increasing the wind speed or the air blowers, and they will try to cool down that greenhouse. But you can only cool down the greenhouse so much. The next strategy is sprinklers. So they have misters in the greenhouse where they would turn on to try to get that heat out, but that only lasts a minute, and then it gets that heat again. The next solution would be they try to cool down their feed water, and then they put their feed water to the plants. But in the data and the studies that we've seen, it cools down for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then after that, it goes back up to temp.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem in industry because as soon as you get to above 25C in the root zone, then you start bringing in diseases, Pythium, Fusarium, and it's a high risk situation now.
Interesting. So in a region where we are getting hotter on average, and as you said, like this is such a crucial industry, no shade to manufacturing whatsoever, but both are really cornerstones of our economy here. And it was interesting you said, they export more than they import, but on the import side of things, 80% of what they import is technology for the greenhouses. So very few of those inputs are coming from Canadian sources. And that's really what, we were excited about and trying to change with a product like yours. So, when you're working in manufacturing, And when you're looking at this new sector, there's probably a lot of things that carry over. So what parts of that manufacturing piece really carried over into this new product, and how does it make you stronger, do you think, as a supplier to this industry?
Honestly, it's the atmosphere. You know, manufacturing is so cutthroat and so thin margins that as soon as you go in the greenhouse, you're like, this is the same thing. These greenhouses are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're just squeezing everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're bringing the cost even lower and lower and lower. So the competition is so fierce, not just the world, but just in Leamington alone. Like, we are the capital of greenhouse production just in Leamington. You know, we have more greenhouses than all of USA. Yeah. Which is absurd for the amount of land size compared to what, you know, the USA is. Yeah. And amount of population. So, you know, if we thought that, okay, if we could bring the same concepts of lean manufacturing and cost-saving strategies to the greenhouse, then we'll be successful. So not only that we are have this ThermaRoot product, we're also looking at bringing in plastic products into the greenhouse, into the Leamington market. So currently, a lot of the greenhouse growers today, they actually bring in a lot of their clips, baskets, bins from overseas. And the competition is fierce, obviously.
Of course.
But with the tariffs and with the global economy, we think that there is an opportunity there. And there is an opportunity for us, a manufacturer, to make, you know, direct bins products right to them and cutting out the middle person, saving everybody money and keeping the money locally, which is the most important thing.
Of course, yeah.
You know, if we could feed our own Canadian people with jobs and support, that is the strategy that we want to do. You know, why are we importing parts and products that we could just build ourselves within Canada, and we could offer a more aggressive price, and we're feeding our own people and helping them reduce their cash flow. So now they don't have to buy a full container of product. They could just buy what they need. And the cash flow will improve, everything will improve, and the reliability of the supplier is at very little risk because we're so local. Right. You know, if we mess up an order, we'll fix it right away and we'll get it with you within a day. And if you had that problem overseas, well,
it's not happening. You're waiting for shipments, and
good luck. And good luck getting your money back. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. That's really interesting. You know, we have these really large industries here, manufacturing, agriculture, and the idea that they sit on top of our region, and instead of being something that adds, it's an additive. Yes, there's jobs, but they're extractive, right? Like they're pulling the wealth out. And so this really flips that model on its head, which is really interesting. Now, any product, as you get it to market, you make a lot of assumptions going into it. What were some of the assumptions that you had early days that didn't hold up once you started getting in front of people?
You know, the ThermaRoot technology, we actually started this project 10 plus years ago, and we actually designed it out of plastic originally because that's what we know and that's what we were best at. Of course. And we actually won an Agri Innovation Award from the province 10 plus years ago, and it was actually a very successful trial that we had. We proved that we could increase yield. We proved that we could, you know, increase productivity. We did all these positive things, but the one caveat that we missed is that installing in a 50-acre greenhouse wasn't feasible. The plastic products, we were trying to weld them together. They were leaking. It wasn't manufacturable. And we dropped the project completely, and we just said, oh, forget it, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, beginning of 2025, we actually had the same main grower that was testing our product open up his own greenhouse, and he called us up and was like, hey, you know, I want you to bring your product in to try it. And we were hesitant, and we were like, okay, well, you know, we had a lot of challenges, and, you know, it wasn't really working, but we knew the concept worked. Like, we knew that, you know, heating the root zone was extremely important, and we proved it back then. But we couldn't find a solution until we came up with the ThermaRoot solution, right? From there, you know, we kind of really kicked it off, and now we're really gaining a lot of steam. right?
That's awesome. I love that it was a challenge of scale, right? It was this works on this scale, but to scale it up to the point where this industry can really use it, it takes a different kind of set of skills. And honestly, I see it as something of a direct application to those manufacturing skills that you have, which is just problem solving all day long, right? For customers.
Fighting fires all day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so with those previous pilots, I'm sure you learned a lot. What changed in that process of development that allows it now to scale and it is ready for that?
Honestly, I've talked to a lot of greenhouse growers, so I brought my product in, I would show them, and they would give me personal feedback. They'd be like, listen, you can't do this, you can't do that. Originally, we had it directly underneath the root zone, between the metal and we would be right there, and then it would be the gutter, or the growing medium.
Okay.
We ended up moving it underneath of the gutter because they were like, listen, the product is great, blah, 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 but we'll never be able to clean this thing. It's not realistic. So those are the things that we kind of learned afterwards. We're like, oh, I get it. So then we changed the model. And we will consistently, if someone comes up with a better idea and a better solution, we don't mind changing our concept or design. Like, we're here to help the industry. We're here to make a change. We're here to make a difference, right?
Absolutely. What I love about entrepreneurs so much, we have, this last year, there's been a lot of volatility in the market, a lot of volatility, especially in North America and how things are done with tariffs and the way the world is kind of going. And you've seen all of those lemons handed a giant basket of them. And you've looked at this product and you're like, we're going to make some GD lemonade out of this thing.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool. And I also think that's such a Windsor Essex thing to do. Like, we dig in, we get gritty, we figure things out.
Yes.
And so it's so cool. Even something that's so simple as like putting it under the gutter instead of above makes all the world of difference in being able to scale it. So that's just, amazing. I want to talk a little bit about sustainability. It's obviously this buzzword in our world that is synonymous all over the place. You have ESGs, you've got a lot of people talking about this thing, but in practice, I think it's a little anomalous. And to be honest, at the base of it, it's about cost savings, because the cost of everything from energy to inputs has gone up. It's skyrocketed in the last little bit. So how does your product really help from a sustainability perspective in this sector that is so focused on that type of input?
Yeah, sustainability is the number one topic that it comes up all the time. And our product really fits right underneath the gutter, so it doesn't get exposed to elements. So it's going to last as long as that metal gutter will last.
Right.
So if they want to keep it for 10 years, 20 years, it makes no difference. It will last that time because it's not being exposed, and it's durable, it's reliable. It's a product that you won't even know is there.
Right.
You walk in the greenhouse, you won't even see it because it's right underneath. It's hidden. I
find that's the best kind of product, right? Like, that's the innovation that you want, is the one that no one really has to think about once it's installed.
Exactly. And the sustainability is that, you're using the hot water. You're really not wasting the BTUs in the greenhouse. You're really concentrating right that to the root zone. In the preliminary studies, we believe that we could reduce, the greenhouse temps by, 2 degrees. And the savings of 2 degrees is huge.
That's huge.
Right? So think about the carbon footprint, think about the heating, think about everything. I think it's going to come down to a situation where it's going to be a standard build.
Yep.
It's going to be a no-brainer. Like, the cost savings will make sense. Like, once we get to scale, everything is going to be logical. It takes time,
of course,
research, money to do that kind of stuff. And that's why, we've been teaming up with Vineland.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about the research at Vineland and how that's been helping.
Yeah, so we're doing a pilot trial with Vineland. It's a government facility, so it was a little difficult to get into, but they are a very renowned research facility. But it takes time. Like, government, I wish they moved a little faster, but that's just, unfortunately how it is. But they are a very prestigious Vineland Research Center that is sponsored by the government. And a lot of the big growers go there. So a lot of big growers that want to do their trials and the experiments, they will go there and they'll do research trials. We're doing a research trial with our ThermaRoot system, with the help with Grodan and Hogendorn.
Okay.
And those two players are the biggest players in the industry. Grodan is the biggest supplier of growing mediums in the world, and Hogendorn is one of the biggest suppliers of PLC controls in the world. And we believe that this product really fits in well with their products because Hogendorn and Grodan made a product called GrowSense. GrowSense is a controller that goes right into the root zone, and what it does is it monitors root zone temperatures.
Okay.
So now, if they can monitor it, now we're giving them a tool to actually make changes, make in real time, where before they can never do that.
Right. So there's this complementary kind of piece to it now that allows.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things that I picked up on there that I think are really interesting.
Yes.
The one is, that 2-degree difference. If you think about a greenhouse as an environment, which it is, right? It's a micro-sized environment, much like the one we're living in on the planet.
Yes.
2 degrees has been typically the tipping point, right? That's what we've been warned about. So that 2 degrees hotter, everything starts to rapidly change and deteriorate.
Yes.
And similar for our food products, if you've got a greenhouse that's 2 degrees hotter than it needs to be, that's a tipping point for those plants and for survivability, for yield, and for profitability.
Yes.
So that's really important that you kind of hit on that. The other one that I really wanted to kind of come out of this was, as someone who works in public service, you're trying to change a system that is incredibly slow to adapt. It's been growing literally for 200 plus years in this region.
Yeah.
And as you're trying to change it, you need help in assistance, proving this stuff out, validating it, removing essentially the risk for these farmers.
Yes.
And so as our job as these public servants to try and get this technology to that market faster, the faster that we do our job, the easier it is for them to adopt, because that process for them to adopt is not going to change. We can't make it any faster than it already is. All we can do is help you get ready to that point. And so just something to kind of consider, because I know that there's been challenges and setbacks in trying to get this thing into research and into those facilities. And so just as, a reflection for ourselves, that moving at the speed of business as a government entity is so incredibly important.
Yeah, and I think that the government has really helped a lot. So that they have a lot of programs out where they're supporting new technology, new innovation. And, people like you guys, we're nonprofits. You guys have really helped push that envelope too. For new entrepreneurs, I think the first strategy is really going to you guys first, because you guys are the beginning stone, and you guys actually lay out the proper structure and foundation for business growers or entrepreneurs to kind of have an understanding of the business overall. Most entrepreneurs probably never started a business, or they've never grew up in a business. I'm a little different. I grew up in business my whole life, so I had a slight big advantage than most people, right? But I know a lot of people that never had the opportunity, which makes a lot of sense. So, your organization, honestly, WEtech Alliance, I'm just extremely happy with them. And, as an experienced entrepreneur myself, I was still very impressed of what you guys could provide and offer. And that's why I wanted to join you guys to understand what's going on. What are you guys doing? And, I'm very happy with all the mentorship, support, structured financing, strategies of how to find money and where to find money and who to talk to. Honestly, WEtech Alliance has been a huge help in this whole project.
That's awesome. We see the assistance programs as a bit of a web, right? It's not easy to navigate.
Yeah.
And so that we see as our biggest job for entrepreneurs is making it a little bit easier to connect you to your next opportunity and shortening that distance. So as you're leaving ScaleUp, what's a little bit clearer for you as a founder than when you started?
Honestly, I think the mentorship really, really made a difference. And like I said, I've been in business for already 20, 30 years, and I grew up in business. So, I thought I knew business really well.
Yeah.
But in reality, I didn't know very much. There's just a lot of different things that I learned through the mentorship program, more of marketing strategies, total addressable SOM, market availability, and how to present and how to get investors. And those are the things that they don't really teach you in school. Yeah. There's no place that you could just find those things out unless you actually join WEtech or find a mentor that has that time to even do that. And most of the mentors, they don't have the time. They're just going to be they'll give you the minimal amounts. But, WEtech really, really emphasizes on that mentorship. And, it's not just the mentors that you guys assign us with, but, if I needed a problem, I could come to you, Adam, and I know you'll help me.
Yeah,
and that's honestly the best thing that I could ever ask for as an entrepreneur is I need people that are willing to help me.
Yeah.
Right. And
for sure.
And no one does that.
Yeah.
Right? No one does that. Like, you go to the real world, they're like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do? Like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. So honestly, I'm very happy with your organization, and I think it's making a big impact for entrepreneurs. And like I said, it's the beginning cornerstone of an entrepreneur's journey, really, to come to you. And when anyone talks to me about it and has a good idea, and I'm like, listen, you got to talk to Adam at WEtech. Like, this guy knows his stuff. Like, really knows his stuff. Like, you got to
awesome.
talk to him.
Well, I appreciate that. I love that you've learned a lot. And to be honest, like, we learn so much too. Every time we run this program, every time we sit across from an entrepreneur, we're learning something about this journey and how to help the next one that comes to our door. So thank you so much and best of luck. And we can't wait to follow along.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, guys.